Hey Math 8, today I am going to do a quick video lesson over Law 3 of exponents, which is multiplying exponents, okay? So basically, this is the main idea. When multiplying exponents with the same base, you're going to keep that same base, and then you'll add the exponents together, okay? And I'm just going to go ahead and jump into it, so if you need more time to write that down, you probably do. Feel free to just pause the video, write it down, and when you've got it written down, we'll go into why this is the case, okay? So, why does this work? Well, basically, if we have x to the third, and then we have x to the fourth as our two examples, if I were to rewrite x to the third, I would write that as x times x times x if I were to write it all out. Okay, we then have this multiplication sign right here. So I'm going to put that in right there. And then last I have the x to the fourth. All right, if I were to write out x to the fourth, it would be x times x times x times x, right? Because I've got 4 x's multiplied together. Okay, now from here, I notice that I have 7 things that are all the same, so I can just combine them and raise it to the 7th power. Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 x's, which means this whole thing is equal to x to the 7th power. Okay, if I were to go back and look at this and rewrite it here, x to the third times x to the fourth, I could also just write that as x to the third plus the fourth. 3 plus 4 is 7, and I get the same thing either way. Okay, so that's why whenever I have something like this, all I have to do, if they're the same base, so if they both have x, for example, as the base, all I have to do is add their exponents together, and that's it. All right? All right, so looking at a couple of examples, I'm going to have 3 examples for you here, just so you can see them. Go ahead and write them down, and then I'm going to have some got it problems here as well that you guys can work through on your own. And you can feel free to come and check with me on these solutions and make sure that you guys got them correctly finished. Anyway, so if we look at the first example, we have y squared times y to the 5th. Once again, just like I did just a minute ago, I can just rewrite this as y squared plus the 5th. 2 plus 5 is 7, and that's my final answer for that one. So really simple, really easy, not too much to it. The next one, it gets a little bit more tricky. Okay, remember that our exponent only goes on the thing it's directly attached to. So it goes on the x, it does not go on the 4 here. Okay, it only goes to the x. All right, which means there is no exponent on the 4. And a reminder, if there's no exponent on a number or a variable, we can assume that the exponent is 1. Okay, so what I'm going to do for both of these examples is I'm going to start by separating the numbers and the variables. Okay, so that is what I'm going to start with. I would write that down. Make sure you've got that written down. Again, if you need to pause, feel free to do that. Okay, so if I look at this first example, 4x to the third times x to the 10th, I'm going to separate the numbers and the variables. The first thing I have here is a number. So I have 4 to the first power, or just 4. I'll write out 4 to the first power. Okay, that's my first thing. My second thing is x to the third. It is a variable, so I want to separate it from my number. So I'm going to write it over here. All right, and then my last thing is x to the 10th power. That one is also a variable, so I'm going to multiply it by my other variable. Wherever you have gaps between your numbers and variables, go ahead and put a multiplication sign. Okay, so now I have written it all out completely, and I'm ready to work with them. Okay, so 4 to the first power is just going to be 4, and that's really nice and easy. Don't have to do anything else with that. Okay, now I have x to the third times x to the 10th, just like I did earlier. I'm going to go ahead and add those two together. So I have 3 plus 10, which equals 13. And that's going to come down here and be my x to the 13th power. And that's it. All right. So just remember a couple things that are kind of tricky. Number one, if there's no exponent on a number or variable, the exponent is 1. The second thing that was a little bit tricky, you want to go ahead and separate out your numbers and your variables. Do them separately and then multiply them together and combine them. All right. The last one here, we have 10 squared times z to the 5th times 2 to the power, or times 2 times z to the power of 0. All right. So I'm going to start same way. I'm going to separate my numbers and my variables. So 10 squared would be a number, not a variable. So I'm going to write it here. Next one is z to the 5th. Okay, that is a variable. So I'm going to move it over here so it's nice and out of the way. And then the next one, we have 2. Reminder, this is 2 to the 1st power since there's no variable directly attached to the 2. Because of that, it is a number. So I'm going to put it there with the other number. And last, we have z to the 0 power. That is a variable. And it goes right here. I'm going to go ahead and put my multiplication sign in between the numbers and the variables in that gap. And now I'm set up and ready to work through these. Okay. Key thing here, these do not have the same base. When they do not have the same base, we cannot combine. All right. So we cannot add the 2 and the 1 together because of this. All right, so what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to simplify 10 squared. I know that 10 squared equals 100. And then I'm going to simplify 2 to the 1st power. I know that that equals 2. So I have 100 times 2. That can be rewritten just as 200. So it ends up working out completely fine, even though we couldn't add the 2 and the 1 together for this. All right. Then I'm going to go to the variables. We have z to the 5th times z to the 0 power. Since they are the same base, I'm just going to add those together. 5 plus 0 equals 5. So now I have z to the 5th power. And then I can write this on down here onto our 200, which is now our coefficient for this expression, 200z to the 5th. And that's our final answer for the last example. Okay, so there's all 3 of our examples. I'm going to be done right there. So it's a nice, quick 8-minute video. You guys can go ahead and try the 3 got it problems using the same steps we did in the examples. Other than that, that is it. Hope to see you guys in class again soon. And that's it. Have a good time doing those got it problems.